My mom is hosting her Domino's group again, and today the theme is the Kentucky Derby. I'm making a Kentucky hot brown appetizer, little bites, and I'm also making a Kentucky buttercake cookie. These are very delicious. Wait till you see that recipe. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. Let's get ready for Derby Domino's. Okay, the first thing I'm making today is Kentucky buttercake cookies. And these should be really easy to put together because I'm using a boxed cake mix. So a little bit of a shortcut recipe here. And I'm just adding 1 vanilla cake mix into this mixing bowl along with 2 eggs that I'll whisk together and 1/3 cup of melted butter. So we'll just dump this in. Not the bag, just this mix. There we go. And then I need my 2 eggs here. Oh, hold on, there's some extra mix. We'll get that back into the bowl. And then these are eggs that I have left over from Easter. I'm sure you're well aware of the cost of eggs these days. It's super expensive, so I bought a giant box of 7.5 dozen eggs at Sam's Club. And we're still working our way through those. But they're about half the price as a dozen eggs at the grocery store, so I thought it was a good deal. I have 6 kids, so we'll eat them all. And then we'll just add these whisked eggs into the box cake mix. And then the third and final ingredient for the cookie dough is this 1/3 cup of melted butter. And I'm using salted butter. I just like that flavor better. Typically, I know a lot of people say use unsalted butter when you're baking so you control the amount of salt you put in, but I always feel like I could use a little bit more salt. So we're just going salted butter today. The recipe said that the batter is gonna be pretty thick. So I'm gonna mix this together with a wooden spoon as opposed to a whisk because I have a feeling that would get kind of messy. So I'll just mix this all up. So yes, that is very thick. So now I'm just using a medium cookie scoop to put the batter onto this parchment lined tray. So the cookies are gonna bake at 350 degrees for just about 7 to 8 minutes. And I had enough batter to make 17 cookies total, so I just scooped the rest onto a second tray and I'll bake those after the first batch. While the cookies bake, I'm making a sweet buttery glaze to drizzle all over the top. So I have 1/4 cup of butter melting in here, and I'm adding in 1/2 cup of white sugar, a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and then also a tablespoon of water. And then I'll whisk that together and let that cook for just a couple of minutes until the sugar has dissolved. So it's a nice smooth glaze. Okay, I'm continually whisking this glaze here and my timer just went off, so I'm gonna pull the cookies from the oven as well. But it smells so good in here. It kind of smells like if you go into an ice cream shop and they make their own waffle cones. It has sort of that warm, buttery smell. So yummy. So I'm gonna pull these out. I don't think they should be too dark. They just look ever so slightly golden on top. And they're supposed to sit on the pan for a few minutes, and then I'll put them on a cooling rack, and then we'll drizzle the glaze over top. I'm gonna slide the parchment paper that I baked the cookies on underneath the cooling rack. That way when I glaze them, it doesn't get all over the counter. So now I'm gonna drizzle a teaspoon of this glaze over top of each cookie. And then once it sets, the finishing touch is a sprinkle of powdered sugar. That looks amazing. So for a finishing touch, I'm going to put some powdered sugar on top of these cookies. I'll just sprinkle that over. A light dusting. I think those look really pretty. And when I took them off of the cookie trays, you could tell they were nice and fluffy. They're gonna be nice and soft, but a little crisp on the exterior and have a really rich, sweet, buttery flavor. I'm gonna give one of these cookies a taste. That is right up my alley. It's a little bit gooey in the middle, a little crispy around the edges, soft and fluffy, and super sweet and buttery. I love it. Look at that inside. You see that?
Mom, can I taste one of those?
So good. Next up, I'm making Kentucky hot brown bites. So the hot brown sandwich was made famous in Louisville, Kentucky at the Brown Hotel decades and decades ago. It's this incredibly rich and decadent sandwich. It's hot, there's turkey, bacon, fresh tomatoes in this super creamy, rich cheese sauce. And if you want to impress your friends, next time you're making homemade mac and cheese, or I guess your friends or family, next time you're making homemade mac and cheese, say you're making a Mornay sauce, which is basically just a bechamel or a creamy white sauce, and then you add cheese to it. So that's what we're going to do here today. We're melting some butter and flour to make our roux, which is the thickener, adding half and half to that, whisking it together, and then adding some seasonings and a lot of melted cheese. And that's going to be mixed in with all the fillings. And instead of making a big sandwich, we're making individual little phyllo cups. You could also put this into crescent roll dough in a mini muffin tin, or cut up little squares of puff pastry too, whatever you want your vessel to be. But I like that these are individual bite-sized little treats. All right, so these are the 2 tablespoons of melted butter, and now I'm adding in 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. Like that, and then I'll whisk that together. And just let that cook for 1 minute. Gets that raw flour taste cooked out if you let it cook for a minute or so before adding the next ingredients. So next we're adding in 2/3 a cup of half and half. I'm gonna whisk that in and then let this all heat up. And in a couple of minutes, once it's starting to simmer, it will thicken. So once it's thickened, we'll remove it from the heat and add the rest of the ingredients. I just want to keep whisking so it's not clumpy like that. I want to smooth it out a little bit, but you can see it only took a minute or two to completely thicken up. Okay, so my sauce is off the heat. This would be the bechamel. So you start with the roux, which is the flour and butter, then you add the milk or half and half to it, and it becomes this beautiful creamy white sauce. And then we can season that with just a little bit of salt and pepper. I'm kind of just eyeballing all of my seasonings today. And I'm going to do the tiniest pinch of nutmeg. That's it. That can be very potent, so you want to go really light on that. And then a little pinch of smoked paprika. And I'll whisk that together and also add in, I have a heaping 1/3 cup of grated Swiss cheese. You could also use Parmesan cheese, Gruyere, and I'm just gonna whisk this until it's all combined. Super cheesy. That's gonna be delicious. I just tasted the sauce and I think it needs a little more salt. So I'm gonna add that in. And this is my own idea, my own addition here, but I'm gonna add a little splash of Worcestershire. I think it could use a slight savory touch to it. So just a tiny bit to start. And I'll stir that in. So next up, I'm going to dice up some oven roasted turkey breast. And this is from the deli counter, but it's called a dinner slice. So you can ask for a really thick piece of meat. I have done that in the past for pepperoni or salami if you want to cube that up for a pasta salad or something. And this is going to be perfect for our appetizer because I can cube this up, but it'll still be thicker bites. I'm using these little phyllo dough shells that I found in the freezer section for this recipe. I've never worked with these before. I was nervous they were going to be very dry and thick, but they were actually thin and had a little bit of chewiness to them. They were a great texture and they didn't overpower the rest of the little appetizer bite. So they were perfect. You do keep them frozen until you're ready to use them. And then I just place them onto a parchment lined tray. Here I have my mixture. I have the chopped up turkey, the cheese sauce, and I did add a few slices of chopped cooked bacon. I don't know why I didn't have a clip of me adding that, but it's in there. And then lastly, I took a few of these grape tomatoes and diced them up finely and stirred them into the mix. Oh, and I took a paper towel and dabbed off some of the excess water too because I didn't want the sauce to become too runny. So once they were a little bit more dry, I stirred them into the cheese sauce with the 2 meats. And then I just filled up each of the little cups. These bake at 325 degrees for about 8 to 10 minutes, and then I sprinkled some fresh parsley over top as a little garnish. These have great flavor and texture, and I love having a hot appetizer to pass around. This is my mom's beautiful tablescape for her dominoes group. She chose red roses to represent the Kentucky Derby, and you can see she arranged her dominoes in the shape of a horseshoe. And then I plated up the Kentucky buttercake cookies, which were such a hit with the whole group. And the rest of my family too. We love these. We ate through them in less than 24 hours. She also had sweet tea and pimento cheese and crackers, which was really tasty too. So they had a great afternoon enjoying all of these tasty Kentucky Derby themed snacks. I have several other Kentucky Derby inspired recipes on my YouTube channel, which I will link for you in my description box below. There's chocolate chip cookie pie, which you can add pecans to, and then that would be Derby pie with bourbon whipped cream, I think. There's mint julep sweet tea. There's Kentucky BURGOO, which is like this stew that one of my subscribers told me about. So lots of tasty options to help you celebrate. Thank you so much for joining me here today, and I'll see you again soon.